So this is the original.
Cut into the mouth because it's so soft.
Right.
This is the original entrance here, and that was actually the best preserved part here, the cut at the end of the dromos. And then the dromos would have continued in. You ever been to Idonia?
Yep.
No, them?
No, they haven't.
Okay, so it would continue up like this, right? It slopes in, like what we're digging over in the other one, right? And then it would keep coming down and down and down and down like this. So the top edge would probably, so the end would probably have been back here somewhere. And the bottom floor, which that's the floor there, it's that upper part, coming up this way. So the posited end of this dromos was somewhere about here. And everything got chopped away. But we didn't realize that at first. So there was actually a big pit that's all filled in right here that the tomb robbers had dug. I mean, a huge pit that the tomb robbers had dug right here when they were looking for the dromos of this tomb, because they knew where the tomb was already from the cut of the plow, but they didn't know where the end of the dromos was. And they didn't know that it was gone. So we dug this trench as a test to make sure we knew where the end of the preserved dromos was.
Okay.
And it was preserved out to here. This was the last part of it that was preserved. And all of this had been dug out by the tomb robbers here. And the only part that had original fill was along here. So the original filling of the dromos was preserved to here, along this side and out this far. That was enough for us to date the tomb. So it's a late Helladic 3A 2 to B, based on carinated Pylex rims and shallow angular bowl handles and stuff like that, which are typical of what we find in the other dromos fills. This pit here is an artifact of the tomb robbers, and come inside here. The head. And pretty much everything about the shape of this chamber and the pits in the ground seem to be artifacts of the tomb robbers too. I mean, we don't have any really good idea where the actual original walls of this chamber were, because they don't really know how to dig this in a way to preserve that. And obviously this is probably the original roof, except for what had collapsed. Maybe this was the original roof level. And we don't really know anywhere like where the original floor was either for sure. I mean, it was probably right around here because of where the dromos is. They dug these pits, and they could have been real burial pits that they found things in, or they could have been things they created looking for burial pits. We just have no way of knowing that.
So did you get anything out of
no,
the inside of it?
Nothing. Nothing. But what we did get, we'll go back out here. This whole area to the west of the dromos was the tomb robbers' dump. So we dry sieved the whole tomb robbers' dump, and we got a fair amount of pottery that was typical of dromos still. No pottery that was typical of chamber material, which is usually your closed shapes with your pattern painted designs and things like that on it. And what we didn't find, which was very surprising, was bone material. So human bone material. Because when we dug the looted tomb at Barnavos, the tomb robbers' dump was packed with bone material. I mean, we could actually reconstruct to some degree the skeletons. There was nothing. And for that reason, we think this tomb had been robbed at some time long before the tomb robbers robbed it. And the tomb robbers actually didn't find anything either. That they probably were digging a dry hole here.
And you've got something just over here?
That's the fissure. When
That's
Jim
the
was
fissure.
talking about the geological feature,
Yep.
it was widened by the tomb robbers who thought it might be a tomb. So it's a geological fissure along the side of the ravine that's then been widened by the tomb robbers.
Wow. They dug a long way.
So they probably were really frustrated by the time they got through digging out this whole chamber and find nothing worth the chamber. They were right. They didn't find anything. And then they dug out this hole. They had more success. The point at which Jim was alerted by the local guy that we actually think is part of the tomb robber gang or related to them. So the fact that this cemetery was being looted, they were maybe a third of the way through digging this drill moss. And Ava Papi, who's in the Greek Archaeological Service at Nafplion, because at this time we were still in the Argolid Eporia before they split Corinth and Nafplion, dug this whole tomb as a salvage excavation. And things were pretty well preserved in there, but because she has a lot of responsibilities, it was pretty much done the way other salvage digs are. She puts a bunch of workmen out here, she comes and visits them once a week, you know. They kind of mark as they go down. You know, we found this at 20 centimeters below ground level, whatever. So they did dry sieve, however, which is really unusual for a salvage excavation. So they got the bone material, and they have drawings of where the skeletons were laid out on the floor. But they definitely missed the stratigraphy and the draw moss, because it's really hard to do unless you do it the way we're doing it. And they probably missed the fact that they had an infant burial. I'll tell you more about infant burials in a minute. But for a salvage excavation, it was probably as good as it gets. So Ava Papi is going to be publishing this tomb. So when we began excavation, like we said, we did all these test trenches over the whole field.
Yeah.
And we found 2 tombs, our first tomb. And you're going to have to put your camera down because there's no way you're climbing in there. And
Sure. No worries.
No, you climb in, but you turn the camera off while you climb in so you don't hurt yourself. Because you have to do a kind of over and under thing. That's what all the flagging's for.
Okay.